Does the family Wilson have what it takes to overcome the immortal cult leader known as Death Grip? Or have the Deadpool's luck finally run out? Well, let's hop into the pages of Deadpool issue number 15. The grand finale of this Cody Ziegler series and the 350th Deadpool issue overall. What'll happen next? Let's find out together, shall we? So then, picking up directly from where the last issue left off, Deadpool and company were horrified to realize that even their weapons gathered from Olympus itself actually ended up doing very little to end the life of Death Grip. It seems that when he absorbed the Muramasa blade several issues ago, he didn't just absorb its power, he literally absorbed the metal, and has used it to create a protective barrier around his heart. That's why when Deadpool tried to stab him, all he ended up doing was pissing him off. Now he's grown several different limbs and is shooting energy from his mouth. This means that Deadpool, his partner in crime Taskmaster, and two daughters Ellie and Princess are going to have to buckle down and get really creative if they want to take this guy out and have it stick. And yeah, that's basically the whole issue right there. They come at him, they try and defeat him, he ends up deflecting them, and then they kind of come back and try and do it all over again. If that feels a little thin to you, don't worry, because Deadpool is also sure to break the fourth wall and say, don't worry, we have a B-plot in this one too, involving office manager Doug and the water cooler rat trying to deal with some of Death Grip's undead cultists who had come through a portal. I'd like to say the book finds a much more creative way to eventually deal with the Death Grip problem, but that's not 100% true. They tried stabbing him, that didn't work, and in this issue they try several different varieties of stabbing him. Deadpool gets his own princess version of the fastball special, Ellie and Taskmaster team up to do some super cool axe kicks, Anthony even says that Ellie might be his greatest student. There's actually a really fun effect that after every run they take at Death Grip, it's clear that his own healing factor is slowly but surely slowing down because more and more of his body ends up rotting and falling away. Eventually, Deadpool is able to do enough damage to reveal the heart, and because this is a Cody Ziegler joint, of course the fate of this big battle involving the entire extended Deadpool family is ultimately resolved with what I can only describe as a Dragon Ball Z style beam struggle, wherein Ellie, remembering what Agent Gao did during the Spider-Man crossover, gets the most out of that stolen Olympian weapon. This manages to completely melt Death Grip's face off, and finally leaves him weak and vulnerable enough for father and daughter to team up for one giant Deadpool stab. In fact, Wade says, oh, this is our first parent-child assassination, which is actually pretty interesting when we stop and consider that one of the most consistent things about this series has been Wade not wanting his daughter to follow in his footsteps as a killer. Though, you know, hey, extenuating circumstances, Death Grip really was that bad, and in reality, they just mostly kill him. As like in any good zombie movie, Taskmaster and Deadpool are forced to really finish him off with a bunch of bullets. Hell, it's even implied that Princess ate the remains just to make sure that this guy really truly is 100% gone this time. And yeah, with that, the day is more or less saved. Deadpool and company return to their offices, where they see Doug the office manager disposing of the goon squad, and for once Wade actually seems happy to see him. In fact, Deadpool is in such a good mood he even gives Taskmaster the time off he's been asking for to nurse the pain in his back. Ellie seems a little quiet and distant back at the office. Again, this is technically the first time we've seen her take a life in this series, even though the guy she killed was more or less immortal. And she didn't really kill him, but she also admits that she is a lot more like her father than she cares to admit, because she did kind of enjoy that. Wade reiterates that the only reason he didn't want Ellie killing and following in his footsteps isn't because he didn't think that she was capable of doing those things, but because he wanted her to remain the best part of him. Pure, heroic, uncorrupted, and without the baggage that comes with 350 issues worth of storylines. Ellie says that she will try and make her father proud, and also that, you know, that's not a great hurdle to climb. Now, as the main story comes to a close, father, daughter, and their extended dysfunctional family decide to take in the beautiful fruits of Montreal by going for a succulent poutine meal. And of course, because this is a big 350th issue, we also have some backup stories, one involving Doug and Princess, another one being a Deadpool Samurai romp that you have to read the comic backwards to see. They're both perfectly fine, but nothing that I necessarily feel I need to chat about here and now. And so that was Deadpool issue number 15, everybody, and overall I feel kinda conflicted about this one. Somehow this finale ends up feeling both incredibly stretched longer than it needed to be, and yet also wildly brief. No, I don't blame Cody Ziegler for any of this. It probably wasn't wasn't his idea for this brand new series to end so early only to be retooled as Deadpools and Wolverines, which actually starts this week at the time of recording. I'm sure that book will be good too, but at the same time I feel like it's a shame that this book had to end at only 15 issues when I feel like it was just truly starting to hit its stride. There's just so much they ended up leaving on the table that I hope they end up following up on in the sequel series. Like, hey, where did all that ghost stuff go from a couple issues ago? What kind of deal did Ellie make? Will Deadpool ever get his full healing factor back? Also, as much as I ended up loving Death Grip in concept, in reality and in execution, he kinda ended up being a disappointing one-note villain, didn't he? Hell, Solemn had one issue in this 15-part series and he was already a much more interesting foil for Deadpool than Death Grip ever was. I don't hate this issue and I don't want anyone to get the impression that I did. Again, there's a lot of fun. There's good jokes in here, really solid action, and Ziegler finds a nice wholesome place to end the whole thing. I just cannot help but feel that there was supposed to be more here. Maybe it'll all read better in trade, as this final issue is essentially just an extended final fight scene from the issue that preceded it. Overall, though, I would give this one a 7 out of 10. Not great. Could have been better, but the door is certainly open for Deadpools and Wolverines to readdress some of my problems here, and I certainly hope they do. Hey there everyone, it's your pal Cape Joel again, and if you're seeing my face right now, that means you watched to the end of the video, and I'll always be grateful for that. Retention helps in this crazy YouTube game, and so does becoming a patron. If you head on down to the description, you can find a link to my Patreon page. Recently just redid all the tiers, a lot of cool stuff offering up there, exclusive commentaries, exclusive polls, behind the scenes concept art for Capes and Quest. That's the brand new D&D show I've started soon. Never been a better time to become a patron. You can become a patron for as little as $1 a month and help the channel grow and, help me continue to deliver content like what you just saw. So I want to thank you all, and I will see you again next time. Bye-bye.